Monticello tradition, the house servants, including Elizabeth Hemings, were among those with Patty Jefferson as she lay dying. Edmund Bacon, who managed the plantation in later decades, said that the Monticello slaves have often told my wife that when Mrs. Jefferson died, they stood around the bed. Mr. Jefferson sat by her, and she gave him directions about a good many things that she would have done. Like her late mother-in-law, Patty was commanding to the last. When she came to the children, she wept and could not speak for some time. Finally, she held up her hand and told him she could not die happy if she thought her children were ever to have a stepmother brought in over them. To extract the promise of eternal faithfulness from a man like Jefferson, vital, sexually energetic, only 39, could be seen as a selfish deathbed request. Patty, however, was most likely thinking of her children and their happiness. She may have believed that the combined maternal influences of the girl's aunts, and perhaps of Elizabeth Hemings, whom Patty had known so long and so intimately, were sufficient without risking the introduction of an unknown woman as mistress of the house. Patsy was nearly 10, Polly 4, Lucy an infant. Jefferson was rich, celebrated, and charming, but he gave his promise. He would, he assured his dying wife, never marry again. Among the reported witnesses to that pledge was Sally Hemings, Patty's half-sister, who was not quite 10 years old. At 11:45 on that Friday, Patty Jefferson died. In the final moments, Jefferson's sister, Martha Carr, had to help the grieving husband from his wife's bedside. He was, his daughters recalled, in a state of insensibility when Mrs. Carr, with great difficulty, got him into the library where he fainted, and not for a brief moment. Jefferson remained so long insensible that they feared he would never revive. When he did come to, he was incoherent with grief, and perhaps surrendered to rage. There is a hint that he lost all control in the calamity of Patty's death. According to his daughter Patsy, the scene that followed I did not witness, presumably the scene unfolded in the library when he revived, but the violence of his emotion, when almost by stealth I entered his room by night, to this day I dare not describe to myself. Patsy was writing half a century later. A pallet to lie on was brought to give him some comfort in the little library, yet his grief drove him out of doors in a kind of frenzy. Patsy attached herself to her father as if clinging to the one remaining constant in her life. For her, siblings had come and gone, and now her mother was dead. Given the demands of his wartime leadership, Jefferson would have seemed a loving, if somewhat distant figure to her. Yet he adored his family, idealizing it in many ways, and he would have seen in Patsy, with her strength and evident maturity in dealing with a father in the grip of grief, images of his mother, of his sister Jane, and of course of Patty. He held her close, she held him close. The pattern of warmth and intimacy between father and daughter that set in during this dark spell of despair persisted for the rest of their lives. He kept his room for 3 weeks, and I was never a moment from his side, Patsy said. He walked almost